All right, hello everyone. Welcome to today's live stream with Matt Pietrek and Suriname Alcoholic Beverages. We have several special guests from the company joining us, as you can see on screen. Karen, Rieke, Stephen, welcome. I'm going to let Matt introduce you guys in just a moment, but before we jump in, my name is Will Hookinga from Savvy.co, and see a few familiar faces in the audience already today. Thanks for saying hello, letting us know where you're tuning in from. Feel free to do that on the chat box to the right. And if you have any questions at any point for any of our guests, for Matt, you'll see a little button at the bottom of the screen that says Ask a Question. So just click that button. You can enter your question in there. Matt will be monitoring those throughout the presentation, and we'll be able to ask them at the appropriate time. And last but not least, feel free to share the event, invite your friends to join us. There's a button at the top right to do that. But with that said, Matt, I will turn things over to you now.
Thank you, Will. Welcome, everybody. These videos we're doing here with Suriname Alcoholic Beverages are a series that we have been doing with WIRSPA, the West Indies Rum and Spirits Producers Association, essentially a Caribbean-wide collection of countries that make rum. And since the pandemic started, we've been trying to take people behind the scenes at the distilleries because we can't travel there ourselves. So we've done a number of distilleries already, from Guyana, from Barbados, from St. Lucia. Today, I'm very excited that we're going to Suriname, which is a country I admit I did not know as much about until a few days ago. But I was very surprised to see some of the great rums in their amazing-looking distillery. So I'm excited that we're doing this. Let's first just sort of go through and have everybody from SAB introduce themselves. Let's start with Rieke.
Hi everyone. My name is Rieke Wirjabesari. I work for Suriname Alcoholic Beverages, and I've been working here about just 28 years. I'm responsible for the mixing and blending department, and I'm also the master blender of this company.
Excellent. And Karen, tell us about yourself.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Karen Wong Fong. I'm the acting supply chain manager and production manager. I've been working with SAB for 2 years now, going on my 3rd year. And like I said, I'm responsible for production and supply chain.
Okay, and Stephen.
Hi, I'm Stephen Marion. I am the current CEO of the company. I'm the 2nd generation of this company, and I have been in this job since 2000. It's quite
wow,
some time.
20 years. Okay, so thank you all. We've prepared quite a presentation. I know Karen and I have gone back and forth, and I know Stephen added some content in there. So let's jump right in.
Okay.
Stephen,
Can I go? Yeah, can I go? Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to present ourselves to the world, to the rum world. I think it is very useful because Suriname is, for a lot of the audience, I think, a very, very much unknown story. Let alone talk about Suriname. They don't know what Suriname is, where it is, and even in South America, when you travel, you can come around people who say, "Well, Suriname is in Africa somewhere." So, but Suriname has a very interesting story, and that I will try to explain in the presentation that we have, is that we have been doing rum, and people ask, "You doing rum in Suriname?" So basically, we are a country on the northeast shoulder of South America, bordering with Guyana, France, Guyana, Brazil, and the Atlantic Ocean in the north. Very multicultural country. We have one of the highest ethnical diversity in the region. We have a very harmonious community also. Only 500,000 people live here. But Suriname has an interesting thing also about it, is that it was traded many, many decades ago by between the United Kingdom and the Netherlands with New York. So that the Netherlands had owned Suriname. Oh no, the Netherlands owned New York, and the United Kingdom owned Suriname. And then they traded it, and we became part of the Dutch. That was in the colonial times. So if that didn't happen, then we would also be speaking English like the rest of the Caribbean. So in many respects, we are a little, how you say, we are a little different because we are in South America. We are not an island, but we still have a blend from both sides that makes us, I think, in our opinion, quite unique. But we speak Dutch also, and the rest of the Caribbean, of the English-speaking Caribbean, they speak English, and then the rest of South America is either Spanish or Portuguese. But going back to Suriname, I think a lot of people, we had people here over the years, people coming on from Canada, etc., not knowing where they were coming from, where they were going to, and they were asking what they were going to Suriname. We had some master blenders here, some excellent people coming in, and they were very reluctant to come here. So we had to convince them come to Suriname. And at the end of the day, when they had to leave, they were like, "I want to come back, and I want to stay here for longer to work with you guys." So that was something that was for us a very nice experience. We have in Suriname, we have been doing sugar. We had over in the 16th, 17th century, we had over 200 sugar estates. And the last remaining sugar estate is an interesting story also, was the sugar estate Marienburg, you can see. And that was a sugar estate founded by German settlers. So we had a lot of German settlers here also. That's why the name Marienburg is also the name of one of our best brands, well, Overproof Rum, is still existing now after so many decades. So the history of Suriname goes back from the 16th century with the rum, etc. But this company, like you say, Suriname Alcoholic Beverages, was founded in 1966. But one of the founding companies of this company, of Suriname, of SAB, was the sugar estate Marienburg. And that was one of the shareholders. And that company was also owned by the Rubber Maatschappij Amsterdam. So there's a very strong link from the past with Holland, with the Dutch. So this company was set up on the Suriname River. You will see later in the presentation where it is located and where the sugar estate Marienburg was. Marienburg Sugar Estate was the last remaining of more than 200 sugar plantations that all disappeared throughout the years, the decades rather. So that's unfortunately, and we are now looking towards a more brighter future because I think that we have been doing rum molasses in the past, and then we had a period that we weren't able to source our molasses. That is something that will also come in the presentation. But I think when I tell this story to people, they were looking Suriname and New York. It's not a comparison. That is true in part, but after we hit some big oil and gas, I think that maybe the UK will say, "Hey, wait, we didn't make such a good deal after all." But that is something that will come up in maybe 5 to 7 years when all these oil wells that we found offshore will go into production. So that is something.
I think that's happening in Guyana as well. That they are also have sort of offshore oil and gas, which is going to change their economy.
True, they find well after a well, and it is like they have I think 18 now, and we have I think 3 now. But their expectation is that we will find much more than we can even handle actually.
Wow.
So that's interesting, and I think that that is going back to the old, that we are able to again start this industry in Suriname, going hand in hand with the development in the oil industry. We have a lot of gold also. So Suriname is quite diverse, very diverse. And on the other hand, also what I mentioned, very harmonious. So we have a lot of people living here. We never had any tension between the different ethnical groups here. So people living quite peaceful here. As a matter of fact, this is the first time we have this live thing now, but the Secretary of Foreign Affairs of the United States, the first time in the history of Suriname, just landed, I think, an hour ago to make a visit to Suriname on his way to Guyana and on his way to Brazil and I think Colombia. So never ever in the history of Suriname did the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the United States visit Suriname. So that means I think we might enjoy some good rum here also. And he see the developments that's going on in the oil and gas industry offshore.
Okay.
Can I continue, or you want to put some questions?
Quite well.
Yeah. Okay. When this company was founded, it was primarily the intention to do products from the sugar estate Marienburg to distribute them, to package them, and that we did for quite some time till the 70s. We had also a situation whereby there was a military coup in the 1980, and that was for the economy not a good period because a lot of industries went down, and this company managed to survive because we did also did some other stuff like distributor for other companies, etc., just to keep alive and to keep continuing. By the company, 1982 was in the middle of the turmoil. We brought out one of our best brands, our flagship brand is Borgoe. And in the end of that decade, we also started our own fermentation and distillery plant, which was financed by Venezuela, Fondo Inversión de Venezuela. Was also a little story behind that part because we already had some financing in place from Taiwan. My predecessor even went to Taiwan to sign contracts, but then there was some pressure from the China Republic to say that you cannot do business with China, and this political stuff going on. So we went to the region and we found a financing partner in Venezuela. So they were the one, and the president of Venezuela that came to Suriname to start to open the fermentation and distillation plant. That was in 1999. It was a very dual system plant that was able to run on rice, grain, and also on molasses. So unfortunately, as I explained, we had some rocky years also because there were problems with the supply of molasses. We had some issues with because this company is located on the Suriname River, and the sugar estate Marienburg was on the other side of the river, so that we had some good supply. But then we had some problems, and then we started to import pre-fermented molasses like light heavy rum concentrate. And now we are in the brink of setting up an own new fermentation and distillation plant. It had some delay because of the whole COVID situation, but you will see some pictures of the intended plan that we hope to have up and running hopefully by next year. I don't know if Karen agrees with that, but we should be running that plant right now if we hadn't had any setbacks in the past 2 years. But everything is ready. We geared up everything. So when that will be realized, the circle will be round again, and then we will have also our own fermentation distillation again. And simultaneously, we will also try again. We also already have some spoken with some partners to see if we can start the sugarcane plant cultivation again in Suriname. Suriname has a lot of land available. As you know, as you don't know, Suriname is very scarcely, let's say, only on the north side where the river is, the capital, Paramaribo is, and the rest is all forest. So there's only 500,000 people living in a very relatively big country that is not utilized for less than maybe 10%. So we are going to set it up, and we want to do it in a very cooperative, responsible way with the communities. And I saw something interesting a few years ago in the Dominican Republic, where Marcelo had something to do with the community and how they worked with the development, with schools and having people. And that is one of my dreams before, which I would like to achieve, because we can do sugarcane again, but we want to do it in a very different way as it was done in the past. So that was indeed something that I hope that by 2 years we will have this realized. The first part, this is the distillation and the fermentation plant, and hopefully within 5 years or 5 to 7 years we will also have the sugarcane for the supply of the plant available.
Yeah. So Stephen, quick question. So in 1999, my understanding was that you were part of the Angostura sort of collection of companies that they built over time.
Yes. What happened? There were 3 shareholders in the beginning. One was the sugar estate Marienburg, Then you had the company, Fernandez company, that were the licensed bottlers of Coca-Cola, and then you had the family company Mayong. So what happened at one time, the government during the 90s, the government wanted to sell some of their stakes in companies, and our company was running quite well, profitable. So they found they were able to source and find sell the shares, and then we went out and we started talking with Angostura. So Angostura was the one that purchased the shares from the sugar estate Marienburg, and they became their shareholders. So there was a strategic alliance with them, and they supplied us with the raw material for at least 10 years.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was
After,
oh, go ahead.
yeah, after the 10 years, then they were in a different situation again. They had to sell some of their investments worldwide, following the Clico thing was going on. And then we were able to do something to buy the shares back. So the company is now 100% Suriname owned again.
Okay, yeah. So people are curious about this sort of era. Search for CL Financial. They were sort of the parent company that purchased a number of companies, including parts of Suriname Alcoholic Beverages, Appleton Estate, things like that. So it's a very interesting period of rum history, recent rum history.
Yeah. They weren't fully owners. They started with 50%, and at one time they increased their share. And then when this thing happened and it fell apart, then we were in a good position to buy back our shares and then have control of the company all over again. But I think that I may say that we had a very good relationship with them, certainly in the first years, because they were our sitting on our board. They were helping us in many ways, in production-wise, and so basically it was a very good relationship. But after a while, things went separately, and we started to do our own things again.
Okay.
That's the current situation right now.
Great.
Oh, you're looking at some old pictures. This was the sugar cultivation at Marienburg, very, very large. You can compare this by the 60s, 50s and 60s with the it was not as large, as big as Guyana, but it was quite considerable because we had a lot of estates that were producing sugarcane. A rich history of sugarcane and cotton, but mainly sugarcane. So it is a big, sad story that it all went down because we were not able to keep it up as with other industries. So for us, it will be a very good, big achievement if we can realize this again on a small scale. This was also run by Dutch people, Dutch employees, and also with people imported from the Far East, Indonesia, and India. There's a lot of people working in the industry. Yet, at times, you had, I think, more than 3,000 to 4,000 people working in that estate. Very, very many manual. There's even the prime minister at one point had a project running in Suriname whereby he said it is not a shame to work in the sugarcane fields to cut the crop, and then he tried to find people, even imported people from Haiti at one time. That's why you still have a large community of Haitians living in Suriname. Very, very much, very large community. So that is these are some pictures of the past, the golden past. Was the biggest employer in Suriname before the bauxite industry alumina took over as becoming the biggest one, and that was also overtaken by the oil company now, which is the biggest employer and generator of income for the state. So when Marienburg Rum, this company was not destined to be a producer itself. We were here more for the packaging, distribution part, export, etc. And when Marienburg decided to cut back their production with half, and at the end, all completely, we had no other choice. And with the help of the government, to facilitate us, not financially, but in terms of facilities to do the investments, we were able to set up this company and became our own producer. But at the same token, the molasses supply was not more in place locally. So we had to import molasses. We imported molasses from Guyana, it was before Gaisupo, Tate and Lyle. So that was also part of the history.
And just I was going to say, for anybody who's curious about that map there, the very long boxes on there, those, I believe those would have been the very sugar estate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most of them coffee. Some of them are coffee and cacao, but
citrus.
Yeah, citrus also. But before you see that it was most of them were indeed before this came along, the citrus and so on. There was sugar
Right.
estates, and it was diversified later on to make it less dependent on only sugarcane. But these are all districts where you see Paramaribo is the capital, and all these these are estates. So we were talking with some of these estates to see if we can just start on a small scale the sugar cultivation again. And there's a lot of interest for it. We were at one stage very far ahead to set up a plant in the western side. Yes, this is very close to Guyana. But then the company that was supposed to do it just pulled back because they wanted to go into gold. So that was also very unfortunate, but it's also part of for us a little sad.
Yeah, I was going to say, like the estates and the layout and the river, it sort of reminds me of the very old maps of Demerara I've seen with the estates. They look very similar.
It's quite similar. Quite similar.
Yeah, and I believe had a common Dutch heritage. So.
Yes, very strong because of the fact that they stayed under the English Commonwealth later. We went to Holland, so that's why but we have a similar geographical. I think we are a little bit more culturally diverse than them because we have so many different people coming in that work on. So my understanding is that we are more culturally diverse than Guyana, but for the rest, there's a lot of similarities.
Right.
Even the name we are doing now in terms of marketing internationally, we are promoting Suriname because the name Suriname doesn't resonate with people. So I used to go back and say this is just Guyana, formerly known. This was our old name before it was changed to Suriname because you have French Guyana, it's independence, overseas dependence from France, and you have British Guyana, which is independent from the UK, and then you have Suriname, which became independent from Holland, the Netherlands. But there's a very strong link still with Dutch Guyana.
Right. And is it like Guyana today, where the sugar plains or the sugar estates were sort of on a very coastal lowlands and not so much inland?
True. Yeah. Same here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the best for the cultivation of the cane. And we had some 4 years ago when the company that was involved with that part, that was they were starting an ethanol plant. And we were partnering with them. We already signed everything. The design was made, and then but it was a government-owned company for the ethanol, and they pulled out and they decided to invest in gold, and so they went into gold and took a major share in gold, one of the bigger gold companies in the world. So basically, that left us sitting with no sugar estate anymore because they were quite far ahead in setting up a sugar estate, and the revenues were very good.
Right. Okay.